Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Glorious Gelt welcomes you as he's glinting in the desert sun here. Today we're taking the Empire up against the foul Skaven, so let's get to the army compositions. Balthazar Gelt, of course, up in the air here, and if you watch my recent game I played against John Tono Total Brohammer, with Empire versus Skaven, you'll know I took Balthazar Gelt, and I did mention in that, I took Volkmar in that battle, and I did mention that I thought Balthazar is probably the most competitive pick just because of Final Transmutation. Skaven Lords don't really have any recourse against this. None of them have magic resistance or regeneration. So Lord Skrolk here, for example, who is by far and away the most competitive choice, can get gooned out by that pretty hard. Granted, Gelt himself can get gooned pretty hard by the Skaven as well. If they take like Howling Warp Gale, for example, and blast you with Warp Lightning Cannons, he is weak to Liber Bubonicus as well, although, interesting, Gelt has an innate 25% magic resistance. I didn't even realize, so he will mitigate some of the damage from Liber Bubonicus and from the Warp Lightning Cannons as well. So I actually didn't realize, does Gelt have this on all his mount options, I wonder? I'll have to check, but interesting that he has that magic resistance there. I never noticed. But anyway, we all learned something today. We've got a front line here of spearmen. We've got two flagellants. Looks like no regiments renowned there. But in the back, we do have the obligatory Royal Althorf Gryphites here with their faith support here. Their warrior priest chaplain to give them the Hammer of Sigmar. We've also got Reiksguard out to the flanks, of course. Zintler's Reiksguard in a vanguard position. And two more Reiksguard over on this flank. So 4 Reiksguard in total. For the Skaven, you can see Night Runners all around. Night Runners, 2 there and 2 there. For the main line of the Skaven, he's got Storm Vermin to anchor the center, Clan Rats with shields, some Plague Monks as well, and 2 Storm Vermin in the back with 2 Warp Lightning Cannons and old Skrolky boys. So let's get the battle into full gear. We'll watch as things unfold. And yeah, Balthazar going to be flying up, of course, using that Staff of Olens and his Arcane Conduit to try and get Winds of Magic to do a quick Final Transmutation on Lord Skrolk here. But for my opponent, he was trying to focus on Balthazar, but I was doing some cut and weave and dodging the shots of his Warp Lightning Cannon, so instead he's turned his attention to my Reiksguard, which is obviously a very good target. That being said, his front line lacks any kind of spears. He doesn't have Clan Rats with spears. He brought the swords instead, so we're just going to face charge these Reiksguard straight in, especially on the Plague Monks. They'll do a lot of damage, and a bit of a hammer and anvil between 2 Reiksguard here, and these Plague Monks are already in a very uncomfortable situation. The Final Transmutation went down on Lord Skrolk and did about maybe 30-40% of its HP damage there, and here comes the mainline engagement with Flagellants clashing with Clan Rats. Flagellants will definitely cut Clan Rats to absolute pieces. Meanwhile, in this pocket over here, looks like Blessed with Filth going down, giving some nice poison damage, but the Royal Althorf Gryphites and the Warrior Priest going to come in and try and collapse the center pocket here. Of course, the Terror from the Royal Althorf Gryphites is going to be very good at breaking Skaven units away. That being said, Balthazar took that Liber Bubonicus, it looks like, because he's taken some damage as well. Another thing to note about Balthazar is that he has a pretty decent charge bonus of 70 when he's up on the Pegasus, so I can actually charge him down into Lord Skrolk, and he'll do some decent damage. Lord Skrolk's not a pushover either. Pretty solid melee combatant, and with the stand your ground up, he's got 72 melee defense, which is not bad at all. But yeah, Gelt probably won't want to stay down in combat for too long, but he'll do okay for a minute there. And Lord Skrolk getting very, very low on HP, as a couple of hits from Gelt have just about sent him past the edge. It looks like one more Final Transmutation going to go down, and I think that Witch Hunter also, that I failed to mention earlier, was applying some effects. Looks like he's going to back up, pop some shots into the back of those Storm Vermin, and yeah, Lord Skrolk, that Final Transmutation didn't quite finish him off there, but Balthazar Gelt taking some fire from that Warp Lightning Cannon. Not great. We have managed to tear out away the other Warp Lightning Cannon, but this one's going to get collapsed on by the Reiksguard here. And my opponent's Storm Vermin are the main issue for my Knights here. They can pretty much clean up the rest of the units without too much issue, especially now that we've shut down my opponent's artillery. But yeah, Lord Skrolk still alive. Unfortunately, that Plague Breath a little bit misaimed there. It would have been devastating to get that right down the line of these Flagellants and Spearmen, but unfortunately a little bit misaimed there. Speaking of misaimed, my Witch Hunter managed to get himself isolated between 3 units of Night Runners here, so yeah, he's going to be gonzo very, very quickly. That being said, we've been able to get some okay value doing some damage to Lord Skrolk. The balance power, all things considered, still very even, despite my attempts at gooning Lord Skrolk super hard. The Storm Vermin are still both relatively healthy, and despite the fact that most of the other Skaven units are being cleaned up, the other Storm Vermin here, the Sword and Board Storm Vermin that is, they're doing quite well fighting Flagellants here in the center pocket, but another Final Transmutation going down, looking to be sapping away Lord Skrolk's health there. It's always hard to tell because the effects look very similar with the Final Transmutation and the Rod of Corruption, but that should be enough there, that upgraded Final Transmutation, to finish off Lord Skrolk, and he does indeed go down. So with that, Skaven are going to start to have leadership issues. We got the Royal Altar Fights in here. Obviously, the Sword and Board Storm Vermin are going to be the best target for them at the moment. But we are going to try and rear charge these Storm Vermin with Halberds pretty aggressively. You can see we just shattered the Warp Lightning Cannon crew there. Plague Monks fighting Flagellants and Spearmen. Flagellants will actually do pretty well against Plague Monks. They'll lose, I'm pretty sure. At least as of the last time I tested it, they would lose. But you know, with the Spearmen supporting here, they can do okay, certainly. And, you know, that's the thing, is even with testing and you know, tier lists and things like that, no engagements ever happen in a vacuum, so even if a unit may lose to another unit one-on-one, with support and, you know, with other units and various factors coming in, like leadership, overall balance of power, I mean, there's a lot of different factors coming into play there, so that's why I hesitate to do a lot of testing videos. I know if you go back in the older days of my channel, I'd had a few testing videos right around the Mortal Empires days that did very, very well. But, you know, testing like that can sometimes lead to some incorrect conclusions, although the testing I did there was more just discovering how out of sync the Game 1 and 2 factions are. Thankfully, things have changed quite a bit since then, and at the moment I think the game is actually very well balanced, perhaps more balanced than it's ever been before, which is interesting to say, you know, with all of the new factions, new units, everything added. It's such an asymmetric game, but at the same time, things are relatively well balanced across the board, I would say. But yeah, you can see at this point the balance power is finally starting to tip against the Skaven. There's just this big old block of Storm Vermin still holding out here. My my State Troop Spearmen have them fixed in place. They're kind of going back to back here, I'm guessing, not trying to get rear charged a bunch by Reiksguard and stuff. There are some Night Runners around also getting run down by the Reiksguard as well. But yeah, we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit through this late game engagement as we start to fix the Storm Vermin in place with the spears. The thing about Storm Vermin is they don't have the best combat stats, even though they have a lot of numbers. So even like the State Troop Spearmen will be able to do okay because they have pretty comparable stats. But yeah, because of their lower numbers and obviously the fact that they've taken a lot of damage, the State Troop Spearmen will rout off eventually. But we're going to drop down with the Royal Altar Fights in just a moment here and bring home the final Terror route with a nice side charge here into the Storm Vermin. And once the Terror takes hold, it will be game. So well played to my opponent. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. A little bit of a redemption for the Empire against the Skaven after my loss to Jonton, but you know, I definitely don't mind losing to Jonton because he's a very, very good player. But this is probably the best strategy against the Skaven, in my opinion. I mean, if my opponent had brought Howling Warpgale, I might have had some issues trying to keep Balthazar Gelt alive, but my opponent still put up a very good fight despite me, you know, gooning his leadership pretty hard there with the Final Transmutation and the Witch Hunter. He was able to take care of the Witch Hunter, and not unfortunately before he got, I think he got one accusation off maybe on Lord Skrolk, but still, pretty good play there with those Night Runners. The Warp Lightning Cannons ended up being a little bit of a liability, although one of them did manage to get an XP Chevron. They got some good damage done against the Reiksguard. My opponent just really didn't have the tools to deal with this many Reiksguard. I mean, he had the Warp Lightning Cannons, he had the Storm Vermin, but some Rat Ogres, I think, might have gone a long way to helping. I didn't actually have any ranged units, which is the main danger against like Rat Ogres and Hell Pits, for example. I mean, obviously the Royal Altar of Griffites with the Warrior Priest would have put down a Hell Pit real quick. They could have done quite well against Rat Ogres as well, obviously, but I didn't have any like Pistoliers or Free Company Militia or Handgunners or anything like that, so you know, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but one or two Rat Ogres is probably not a bad pick just to help stop up the cavalry at the very least. They have the mass to bog them down, and of course they do good armor piercing and shock damage on the charge. So, you know, if you can catch an Empire Knight or a Reichsguard in the back or in the side with some Rat Ogres, they can definitely do some good damage. So, some food for thought there. But overall, very fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you very much for watching once again, and we'll see you next time.